Today's going to be a good episode. I have a special guest, friend, someone in the industry who I've had the pleasure of interacting with, working with a little bit last year, Will Miller with Priority Roofing out of Dallas, Texas. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Growth Minded Contractor. I'm your host, Ryan Groth. And what's up, Will? How you doing, man?
Oh, doing good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, pleasure. It's so good to have you. For those of you tuning in, listen, you're gonna want to pay attention. So Will Miller, just before we get into conversation, as I introduced you, Will he started Priority Roofing and founded it in 2016. So just a few short years ago, and out of Dallas, Texas, and took it to 6 locations. Last year, they finished at just over $60 million in revenue, and they'll finish somewhere around 75 million in 2022. It's amazing growth. They're a residential and commercial roofing contractor. And so, this is going to be a fun time. He's also a father of now officially 4 children, happily married, and doing a lot it's really fun to watch and get to know Will. And he's the type of guy I want on this podcast because I think everybody wants to go for as much as possible, and you're taking the steps to do it, and it's super fun to watch. So Will, welcome onto the podcast. I just want to take a few seconds to maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about your, just kind of what was your background before Priority, and then kind of when you founded it. Let's talk a little bit about the journey there with the business. But yeah, let's kind of start dating back before Priority started.
No, absolutely. So I actually went to a Bible school in South Dallas called Christ for the Nations from 2010 to 2012. I guess I graduated in 13 or the beginning of 13. It was a 3-year program, and my plan was always to go to the mission field. Even when I met my wife there, and the goal was, hey, I'm going to marry somebody that wants to go die in Africa somewhere preaching the gospel. That was the initial thought. That was the initial goal. When I was going through Bible school, I had to find a way to pay my way through Bible school. And that was, for me, I had a buddy that was going to the Christ for the Nations as well. And he was knocking doors for a roofing company. Told me about it. So in 2010, I started knocking doors for a local roofing company in the Dallas, Texas area. And I wasn't selling roofs. I was knocking doors, setting up appointments to sell roofs for the person that would come behind me and sell roofs. I did that for about 4 months, and then I saw how much money the individuals that were selling roofs were making, and I decided I wanted to sell roofs, so I transitioned into selling roofs, and I did that for 4 months, and I actually had a very terrible experience. In 4 months, I was going to Bible school at the time, so I was 25 to 30 hours a week was all I could really allot for work. And during that time, I made a total of about $400, and it averaged out to about $1 an hour. If you subtract my gas from that, I was pretty much working for free, and that was very, very discouraging, especially considering I had to have money to pay my school bill. After that, I decided that I was never going to sell roofs again. I went back into knocking doors to set up appointments, did that for about 1.5 years, and then I started selling roofs after that 1.5 year cycle of knocking doors again. When I went back into it and I sold roofs the second time, I did very well, and I was able to generate a 6-figure income for myself consistently every year selling roofs. And I got to the point where I was very confident with it. I was comfortable with it. I had grown a lot in it. And after about 6 years of sales experience, then started Priority Roofing in 2016. So I was in the roofing industry for quite a while prior to starting Priority Roofing. I would say at this point in my life, I have still been an owner for a little bit less than I've been a salesperson or a roofing industry professional that wasn't an owner. So that was my prior experience. I did roofing for quite a while before I started Priority.
Got it. Yeah. So something interesting, we share this experience where a part of during our younger years envisioned our life, really for the cause of the gospel. And I considered missions for a time, but then I actually considered maybe full-time vocational ministry at one point. It didn't last a terribly long time, but I had envisioned that for my life. And then seeing that change over time, and then having a family, and then realizing that business is a great place to make an impact and things like that. How, just before we get into the priority piece, how did you find a sense of peace to kind of essentially, maybe pause or delay, or maybe postpone, or maybe just completely cut off maybe the potential of being a full-time ministry in Africa, and now you're a roofing owner, right? So talk about that, because that's if that's not too deep of a question right now, I'd love
Yeah. No, it's definitely a deep question. But I guess the best way to answer is with transparency and honesty. I would say in 2014, I was up to that point, I had been very, very ministry focused. I'd gone on a lot of missions trips, I'd preached a lot, and I almost had an opportunity to go a number of different directions when it came to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually at a business conference. At the business conference I was at, I didn't know it was Christian, didn't have any type of Christian background to it. But on Sunday morning they had some worship and a little short message. And I remember, and this is, how do you say, me speaking very openly in culture where, how do you say, this isn't necessarily always received because it's a little bit different. But for me, I remember at the conference, I remember when the worship was playing, I remember really, really, really feeling God. And I just saw a picture in my head of women and children in Africa. They were crying, and there was like this knowledge that they were lost, but now they were found, right? And in my mind, I was like, man, that's what my life is. And I felt like there was this question, like, why aren't you there right now? And I remember being like, well, God, I don't know why I'm not there right now. Like, I could be. I know people that would support me. I know people that would give me monthly support. Like, I could raise it. I have people that believe in me. I've done ministry long enough that I could be there if I wanted to. And I feel like the question was answered with just kind of a knowing of, no, the reason you're here right now is because if you did that, if you went to Africa and you did what was really, really on your heart, you'd have maybe another 50 years of your life to really give it to ministry. But if you spend the next season of your life, maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years, maybe 8 years, doing business, the amount of impact you can have when it comes to the impact you can have in a ministry capacity is going to be significantly and even exponentially greater than if you went right now. And for me, that was a turning point. It was like a milestone moment for me. It was, okay, well, that's it then. Like, up to that point, it was like, hey, like, I'm doing some business, but I really want to be doing ministry, but I have to provide for my family. And, what's the right thing to do? And at that point, it was, okay, like, this is the direction I'm running. This is where I'm going. Hey, ministry's on my heart. And I know it's like what I was like built for, but business is the season of life I'm in, and I'm going to own that season because I feel like my life's going to have a higher capacity, and me maximizing my potential looks like really spending a season really geared towards business. And since then, it's been business running in that direction 100%. Now, that thought of what if I was in business 5, 6 years, and then going and entering ministry at that point, I'm really at like the 6-year mark, and I want to start making some intentional efforts and taking some intentional actions to make an impact around the world beyond just finances, but actually doing some going. The business is at a point where I could do some traveling if I wanted to. I wouldn't do a ton. It'd be a little bit here and there. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to go 10 years from now and all I have to show for it is money, because for me that would be a loss of the potential impact that I was built for, right? So I would say for me, there's never been a question. It's never been difficult for me. It's never been like, man, what am I doing? Why am I not in ministry? Because for me, I knew that, hey, this is the most effective direction I can go for my life. And for me, it was just a knowing, like, it was a milestone moment. This is the direction I'm going from this point on. like, hey, I'm dead focused on business, but it's not going to end here. This is the beginning, and it's a means to get to the destination, right?
Yeah.
And I would say when it comes to ministry, I'm just now in the season of my life where I really want to start taking some intentional actions towards that. And there's some different things that my wife and I've kind of talked about that
Yeah.
we're planning on doing. But yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, I love that, you had that experience and you shifted gears because, yeah, a couple things that I want to say just about ministry people, especially like communicators. I mean, they're leaders, right? Like they're really good communicators. They know how to lead. They use their gifts and they're all in. Like they're all in. So, like, I mean, what happens when you take a really gifted communicator who's all in, right, and put them in business? They're going to be pretty successful. And I just think that from a gift mix standpoint, how that that purpose and call and deep like connection to what you do every day for no money, right? That wasn't the motivation, but to switch gears into business, that's an underlying context that people need to take into consideration when you go from 0 to 60 million in 5.5 or 5 years, right? So it's interesting to see the amount of purpose and intent and depth of knowing of why you're doing what you're doing, and I think that's pretty neat. So excited to see what happens whenever you and your wife pull the trigger on some things. I'm sure it's going to be incredible. Yeah, so kind of shifting gears into priorities. So, yeah, priority roofing. Talk about the journey of growth and kind of describe to me. We talked before about like kind of like theming, having themes for the
Yeah.
years. It's I like seeing your leadership style shine through in the business. Talk a little bit about the growth and just kind of and let's just talk about how'd you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So bear with me a little bit because it'll take a little bit of time to get through it. But starting from July 5th of 2016 to where we are now, I remember as we started growing in 2016, November of 2016, this is a few months in, we had a month where we did 20 roofs in a month. And for me, that was like, man, this is like exactly where we want to be. Because my goal was, hey, start a roofing company, get a sales team of 4 or 5 guys. We can run together. We can work together. We can have fun together. Everyone can make some money. We can enjoy ourselves while we're doing it. And man, if we could just get to the point where we're putting on like 20 roofs a month, oh man, we'd be killing it, right? We did that in November of 2016. And then come 2017, and I didn't really have any expectations. It was like, oh, if we keep doing this, this is great, right? And then there was a storm in 2017 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And in February, we did 20 roofs. In March, we did 34 roofs. In April, we did 42 roofs. And then because of the storm that had hit near the end of March, in May, a lot of those roofs went on. In May, we actually did 89 roofs. And for us, that was like absolutely mind blowing. Like I never would have expected it. I never would have told you I was going to do it. It wasn't in my aspirations. It wasn't even something I really even wanted. It just happened. But then at the same time, when it did happen, it was like, hey, let's go. Like we're going to do this and we're going to run with this and we're going to find a way to get all these roofs on, because at the time we didn't have money to install 89 roofs. And that was just where we were at. And we had a principle that was, we don't ask for money up front. We finish the job. The day we finish, that's when you pay us. So even like that first ACV check, we weren't taking deposits. And that's something we've always done. A lot of people will say they disagree with that from a business standpoint. We did 60 million last year. Every single job we did, every single one, we didn't pick up the check until the job was finished. So for us, that's a principle of business. I wouldn't tell everyone to do it, but that's how we operate. But in 2017, May, when we did 89 roofs, we had to find some way to get the money to install these roofs. And you can't go to a Wells Fargo. You can't go to a Chase Bank. They're not going to give a company that's been in business for less than a year any money at all. So we had to go to more of a loan shark type of lender, more of a hard money lender. We ended up borrowing $100,000. We had to pay 30% annual interest on it. So we had to pay 130 back in 12 months. But we had enough to get some roofs on. And as that season was happening, the bank account, even with the $100,000 out, was going from like 2,000 to 10,000 to 5,000 to 40,000 to 6,000 to 50,000 to 2,000, constantly hovering above zero. And then because of that $100,000 that was on our books, we were in a position where we couldn't ask anyone for more money because they would see we already borrowed money and no one wants to give again after you already owe someone else money. So for me and my wife at the time, we had 2 little kids. One was a newborn that had just been born in January. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. We had a credit card that had a max limit of $10,000. We pay it down $2,000 to $8,000. We max out 10, pay it down to 8, max out 10, pay it down to 8. all of our sales reps were making more money than we were at the time because we were just trying to figure out this cash flow thing. I can also say that that was a really, really hard time for my marriage. I wouldn't do it again. And a lot of people will tell me when I kind of explain, hey, the amount of time I was working, like I was working 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. On Sunday, my phone would still blow up all day, even though I was at home, so I wasn't really at home. But then the 6 days I was working, I would leave at dark, like usually 6, 7 a.m. I'd get home at like 10, 11 p.m., midnight. And that was consistent, like that whole season of 2017. My marriage really, really struggled during that season. And a lot of people will tell me when they hear the story, they'll say, hey, man, well, like, that's what you had to do, right? Like, that's what you had to do to really build something. And I don't necessarily believe I would have had to have done that. I wouldn't do it again. If I was in that position back in time and I knew then what I do now, I would do it differently. I think that family always has to come first. And I think that I compromised some things in trying to build something that wasn't worth compromising. But I also think that you can only grow from your mistakes. You can't grow from your successes. So I'm excited about growth. So for me, it was a good growth opportunity, but I definitely wouldn't recommend anyone do it. And I think your family always has to come first. But saying that to say, 2017 was a great year for the business. It was a rough year for my family. Near the end of 2017, a lot of our receivables came in. We were able to pay off a lot of what we owed. We had a lot of money in the bank at the end of that season. We had just over 550 roofs total. That was exciting for us. We got to the end of 2017. It was like, hey, what are we going to do now? That was exciting, right? In 2017, I would label as the year of explosive growth. It wasn't expected. It wasn't intended. It just happened, and it exploded, and it blew, I think, everyone on our team's expectations. Going into 2018, the thought process was, hey, do we want to go past the point of no return and really, really grow this thing? Or do we want to continue to play it a little bit more safe, keep the overhead low, and see if we had another year like 2017? All the way through 2017, our overhead was low enough that if all of our sales team left, I could sell enough roofs to cover our overhead and make a little bit. Like, that was the thought process before then. Going into 2018, it was like, hey, you know what? We're going to go past the point of no return. If our team quits and they leave, then I can't sell enough roofs to keep this thing going. So we had to have faith in our organization, right? And that was an intentional choice we made. And we decided, hey, we're going to invest in this thing. We're really going to grow it, right? And we went from the year of explosive growth to making a whole bunch of investments. And for us, that looked like hiring a sales manager that had previously done well selling roofs, and now he was a sales manager. Hiring a quality control manager to oversee production. It looked like hiring some more office people. It looked like about halfway through the year hiring another quality control manager because we wanted to put more emphasis on the quality of the construction we were doing. So now we have two like well-paid production positions, right? And then it looked like getting a new office space. And because we're still like barely over a year in business, the office space wanted an $80,000 security deposit because it was a really nice office space. We put that down. And then we bought like 8 company trucks for all of our project managers and for our quality control managers. So that was a big expense. We paid cash for them. And then we spent a whole bunch of money on new lead sources and new advertising sources. And that was about $60,000. And I would say out of 60 grand, we probably got 2 residential roofs from it. So that wasn't worth it, right? Then we decided, man, we're buying all these leads from all these other third-party lead sources. Let's start our own lead source. So we started a call center. We put a bunch of money in that, and that was good, but that didn't end up working because we weren't able to build it big enough to where the volume of leads we could get us leads at the same price we could buy them for. So we ended up having to axe the call center and going back to buying them from a third party. We also started a Denver, Colorado location. And obviously, when you start a location, it's not profitable at first. We put a whole bunch of money into starting a location about midway through 2018 without seeing any profit from it. And then all that happened. And then in the middle of 2018, we were installing a roof. We ripped off the entire roof. The sky opened up. It rained so hard that, you know, when you're driving down the freeway and you're going 70 and you have your windshield wipers on full blast and you have to slow down to 30 because that's how hard it's raining. That's how hard it rained. By the end of the rain, it rained for like 20 minutes. I got a phone call, and this guy has water all in his house because we had ripped the roof off right before the rain came. There's drywall, all his electronic equipment's ruined, insulation ruined. That was an $83,000 loss we had to make up for, and our insurance didn't cover it because I got the wrong type of insurance, right? So saying that to say, in 2018, we did 850 roofs, and we lost money in 2018. And it wasn't like I'm good at taxes, so I made our tax return look like we lost money. We actually lost money. And that was like, that was difficult. That was devastating because 2017 was a good year. We invested all the money we made in 2017 into 18. We did 850 roofs, which anyone like would say, man, that's awesome. And then we went negative, and at the end of 2017, we had debt. We had more debt than we had money in the bank account from our line of credit. And I remember just hitting me in December, like, man, like, I put all this time in, all this work, and we have an organization of over 50 people, and we've literally got nothing to show for it. Like, should I just go back to selling roofs for another company? Like, I could make more money selling roofs for a company than I could doing this. Should I downsize and we just play it way, way, way safer? I remember I took about a week off, spent 4 or 5 days, like, really thinking and praying and looking at the books. I like spent hours on QuickBooks looking through the numbers. And by the end of, like, it was about a 4-day period. By the end of it, just really, really spending time dialed into what had happened and what was going on. By the end of it, we came up with a strategy and a plan of intentionality that we knew was sustainable. And it looked like making some adjustments. And it looked like, hey, we're not going to spend money we don't have. We're not going to spend money based on what that money could profit. We're going to spend money that we have. And if we're willing to lose it, then we'll make the investment. We made a whole bunch of adjustments. And we came back with a model that I believe was sustainable. And we were committed to saying 2019 is going to be a sustainable year. And that's all we care about. We're not trying to grow. We're not trying to get bigger. Like, 2019, we're going to be sustainable. So 2018, we titled, and the whole team that's been with us for a while, they know, like, 2018, that was the year of education. That was the year we learned. And what I'll tell them is I'll say, hey, look, guys, like, you probably aren't going to work for a roofing company that's made as many mistakes as we have. I highly doubt they've made I highly doubt there's anyone that's made more mistakes than we have, and they're still in business. But what I can say is that we've learned from our mistakes, and a year from now, we're still going to be in business. And 5 years from now, we're still going to be in business. And 10 years and 20 years, everyone that's here on our team is going to have a home long term. Our customers are going to have trust in the warranties they get because there's a company that's going to back them. And we have figured out how to be sustainable because we learned that in 2018 when we didn't know how to be sustainable. So 2019, that was a year we just really, really had made an intentional decision that this year we're like, hey, we're going to finish the year and we're going to be profitable. We don't have to be crazy profitable, but, like, we're going to finish the year and said, hey, we made it, like, we're sustainable, right? And that's how 2019 went. And we stuck to the plan, and we didn't invest in a whole bunch of crazy things. And we kept the same sales team we had. We got a little bit bigger by the end of 2019. We went from a team of about 50 to about 60. Denver, Colorado had a good year in 2019, and we were consistent with the intention of being sustainable in 2019. That was a year of sustainability. Going into 2020, it was like, hey, we figured out sustainability, right? Now we want to, hey, like, let's figure out how we can intentionally grow. 2018, it was like, let's do everything. Let's do this. Let's do that. Oh, you have an idea. Who has an idea? Oh, you have an idea. You have an idea. Okay, we'll do all of them. 2020 was like, hey, we're going to pick one thing at a time, and we're going to be intentional about it. And that intentionality is going to work because we're not going to let go until it works, and we're not going to try something else until it works. And we're only going to make a plan that we believe is going to work, and it's going to be detailed, and it's going to be thought out, it's going to be dialed in, and it's going to work, right? So 2020 was the year that we made different steps to do things that we hadn't been successful with before. One of those is 2021 to get into commercial. And I probably spent about, I would say probably about 2/3 of my time just focused on either commercial or designer roofing. Commercial as in, like, obviously commercial buildings, designer or specialty roofing as in non-asphalt, metal, clay tile, slate, synthetic products, things like that. Everything was running pretty smoothly, was sustainable, so I was able to really, really invest a lot of my time into just focusing on commercial designer. We also started another location in Austin, Texas. This was by far our best location that we've ever started. Austin actually did more roofs in 2021 than Dallas did in 2021. So we did that with intentionality. That went well. We picked the right guy for it. We put the right plan in place, and everything went well. In commercial, we installed a number of different commercial roofs in 2020, and that really, really started taking off. Commercial takes time, so it wasn't like, hey, we went out and we killed it and we did 20 million in commercial in our first year. But we did enough where we saw the pipeline building and we saw the excitement, and we continued to work towards it. And I want to say in 2020, we probably installed somewhere around like 20 commercial projects. And for us, that was big because it was new and we hadn't installed any prior to that. Designer, we did some big designer jobs in 2020. We had a big stone coated steel job we did where the sales rep that sold it made a $43,000 commission. And for us, like, we'd never written anything like that before. 10 grand was most we'd ever paid anybody. And I was like, hey, this is exciting. Let's continue to explore this. And that was a starting point to doing things with intentionality. The three specific things were commercial, designer, specialty roofing, and then starting an Austin location and actually having that go well from the beginning. 2020, we finished the year and we're like, hey, like, we can do whatever we put our minds to. It opened up everyone's capacity to really, really believe that if we decide we're going to do something and we spend one day at a time doing what we said we would do, we could be intentional and we could have results. Going into 2021 was honestly absolutely crazy for us. So if you look at our revenue growth, in 2017, we did 550 roofs. We did 7.2 million in total revenue. 2018, we did 11.2 million. 2019, we did about 18.1 million in revenue. 2020, we did 29.5 million. 2021, we actually did just over 60 million in revenue. And typically you're growing, and your growth starts peaking a little bit and starts climaxing. For us, every year we had about 60% growth. In 2021, we literally had more than double the growth. And I believe that was because that was the first year that we ever had a number of different individuals on our team that were doing things and accomplishing things that I was hardly even involved with. The manager in Austin in 2021, they did 1,600 roofs. The manager in Austin, his name is Mike McQueen. He's now an equity partner. He owns a part of Priority Roofing. But man, that guy worked 105 hours a week. And that's no joke. It was like 105 to 110. He logged his hours. He hustled. But the entire time, like, he kept his integrity. He worked hard. He did everything he said he would do. And by the end of the year, he had built a sales team went from like a sales team of 0 to a sales team of over 50 reps in like a 12-month period. And they ended up doing 1,600 roofs total in 2021. We started the location in April of 2020. And that was something I had very little to do with. Hey, I was there about once a month for a couple of days. We talked on the phone a lot. We communicated quite a bit. But he was doing so much more than I could ever do. Personally, myself, in 2021, we started a Houston location. Houston did well. We started a Tyler, Texas location. Tyler did well. If I looked at the whole picture, there was a tremendous amount of things that happened that I had so little to do with. The ceiling for like what's possible, what can we do as a team, it went from what Will Miller can do with his organization to what everyone that's a part of this thing can do. And Will Miller probably has less than 2% involvement of what's actually going on. And that was exciting. Like, that was exciting for everyone to be a part of something that it didn't look like one person. It didn't look like one face. It didn't look like it looked like a team of people that had momentum, that were running a direction to take on anything that they wanted to. So anyway, I would say that's the story. 2021, we call the year of teamwork and united growth. I know that's a long story. It's hard for me to summarize it. But that's overall what it's looked like. 2022, I can't tell you exactly what that is because I don't really know till the end of the year. I look back and I'm like, man, that's the label that this year got. But what I can say is there is excitement and growth. For me, it's not about the money. It's about seeing what's possible. What's the ceiling? What does it look like to maximize our potential as a team? That's exciting. If it was about money, I wouldn't have energy to wake up and work hard and grind and hustle every day. But growth is something that, like, it's exhilarating. It's fun. It's exciting, and it makes me love what I do. And I feel like it makes the members of our team and our organization enjoy and love what they do as well. So that's a long answer to your question, Ryan.
Oh yeah, love it. I love that, and it's incredible how you could tell you told that story hundreds of times because and it's
true.
And what reason I say that is because, I'm telling a story too, right? When you're talking to whether it's new employees or people buying into your vision. But what the reason why I say that is because you have said that story many, many times. And I think, that's worth saying is, like, part of your growth has been, there's a lot of different things you're doing, but like, I remember working with you last year, you didn't even have like a CRM system. So it's not like, it's not like you're like doing all this with like technology. Like,
That's
there's
true. Yeah.
cool stuff. that you're doing that I think has made an impact. And what that looks like to me is your training program, And so talk a little bit about what is that training program, and then also talk a little bit about the cadence of gathering your entire sales force, because you have like an army of salespeople now, right? And they're working in a united way. There's teamwork, and I want to hear that. And I also want to hear how like what message are you sending consistently? So all right, so I'm asking a few questions. I don't want to overcomplicate it. Training program and what the cadence is, and that story you're telling and how important that is, and what that looks like. And talk to also about let's start with that, the training program. You credited that to your growth. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So all of our growth prior to 2019 was really organic growth. I had friends. I'd spent years in the DFW area. I had friends from East Texas, where I grew up, that were moving to Dallas, and just from word of mouth, I wasn't even really trying to sell priority to people. I get a phone call, "Hey man, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm started this company." "Oh, what is it?" And then someone would end up coming, and then they would bring their friend, because they made really good money, and their friend wanted to come try. And we really built about a 45-person sales team just off of organic growth and people seeing the opportunity and going for it, right? And 2017, 2018, 2019, I remember there was always this thought where it was like, man, this organic growth, I don't really know how to control it, and I don't really know how it happened. So let's say we had a few years where there wasn't great hailstorms, or let's say, hey, I've tapped out a lot of my referral bases, and let's say that our sales team starts to diminish a little bit. Like, how do we continue to grow, right? Or how do we get to a point where we're not capped at a 45-person sales team? Because I don't even really know how we got there, right? How do we continue to grow? We didn't have any system for that. It was just excitement. It was growth. Let's go. But there wasn't anything that was a part of that system to actually get to that point. And because of that, it's like, hey, you know what? Why don't you go to Colorado and start a location? Okay, great. I'll do it. Well, what do I do? How do I hire sales reps? I mean, you have any friends in Colorado? That's why all these guys are here in Dallas, So we didn't have a really good system for it. And when we didn't have a great system even to reaching out and hiring and training people from our cold market, right? So 2019, I always had a picture in my head of what I felt like a really good system could look like. Never tested it out. 2019, we hired a sales manager. Name was Michael Lombardo. And I knew him. I'd known him for years. He did phenomenal selling roofs. Was one of our top guys. And he also had incredible ability to teach and mentor. He had a lot of ministry background, where he was more of a pastoral role. And I knew he would do well at something like that. So we developed a training program where for 4 weeks before the training program started, he would do nothing but spend those 4 weeks recruiting. And that was it. He was on Indeed. He's on any type of recruiting platform. Probably 90% of it was Indeed. Calling, interviewing, talking to people, face-to-face meetings, selling them on, hey, this is what this opportunity could look like for you. By the end of those 4 weeks, the goal was typically to get somewhere between 6 and 10 in the training program. And then that team was 6 to 10 in the training program. They would have a 4-week training program. And in those 4 weeks, half the time was classroom training. So in the morning, about 3.5 to 4 hours was classroom training. And they're learning how to read an adjuster's report, how to look at a roof, how to build a roof, what the different components are, how to look for hail damage, all those different things that are part of the process, right? And then the afternoon, the next 5 to 6 hours, they're spending time on the field knocking doors. And when they get a lead, then Michael Lombardo and usually a couple other experienced sales reps, they'd be ready to get on the roof, look at it with them, and close it with them, right? So the average person, when they would get out of the training program, the average is somewhere in the ballpark of about 7 contracts. They'd finish the training program, they'd average 7. The record's 22. That's the most we've ever had. They got 22 contracts in that 4-week period. And probably the lowest anyone's ever gotten is like 1 or 2, right? But the average is about 7. And every other month we would do that, and we would bring in about somewhere between 6 and 10 different individuals into the training program every single month. And that's how we run it. So prior to that, it was always like, whenever you had to train someone new, we would train one person at a time. And it's like, hey, ride with me, ride in my truck. We'll run a couple of leads together. We'll knock some doors together. Then I got so busy, I couldn't do it anymore. Then I had a sales manager that got so busy, he couldn't do it anymore. And we had too many people coming on, so we just started sending them out with veteran reps. And the veteran reps weren't getting paid to train him. They were getting paid to sell roofs. They wouldn't really take him under their wing and really train him. So we realized only like 3 out of 10 guys would actually make it because the other 7 wouldn't really get the support they needed. And they ended up kind of falling off. When we started the training program, everyone starting out strong. Wasn't 100%, it never is, but it was more like 7 or 8 out of 10 would really, really stick and take off, right? So we did that in 2019. Since then, we've run the training program every other month, 4 weeks on for training, 4 weeks off for recruiting. We've done that since 2019 in July until 2022. And every single location out of all 6 of our locations has 1 month off and 1 month on. So every single location at any given time is either recruiting or they're training. And you take 6 locations times 6 training programs a year. We're running 36 training programs a year right now in all of our different locations, and it's steady growth, it's steady building. And that's the biggest thing that has been easy to duplicate and easy to maintain consistency with, that continues to allow us to grow. And it's the absolute easiest way for us to get into new markets because the model works. And rather than just going and kind of shooting from the hip, trying to figure out what we need to do, there's a consistent model to recruiting, to hiring, to training, and then it's rinse and repeat, recruiting, hiring, training. We do it over and over. And that's how Micah built a 50-person sales team in Austin in about a year. And we've seen that happen in some of our different locations repetitively. But anyway, that's how our training program works, and that's probably the biggest piece when it just comes to the system of what we do. That's really been successful.
I love that. I love the schedule about that because it kind of puts, it creates a healthy, positive pressure on making that 4-week recruiting period. Like when you have that pressure and that deadline, you start to get a little bit more resourceful or whatever. You don't want to come in with one guy, right? So I like that. And then you have the cadence and the rhythm, and it's consistent and it's predictable, and you can do it per location. That's super fun. So Will, talk with me a little bit about, priorities culture and, kind of like, why would a salesperson get excited about working for Priority rather than, somewhere else, or even working in a different industry? Like, talk a little bit about that kind of message to a salesperson, prospective salesperson, that somebody might say, and like, what's the culture like there?
Yeah, no, great question. So I would say that honestly, my intention from the beginning, and I never want to lose this dynamic, has always been to build every single piece of who we are in our systems and our organization around the individuals that we have. And the majority of those individuals are our sales team. And the reality is, you can have the best systems in the world, but if you don't have the right people that are working within those systems, then those systems are absolutely worthless, and you're not a business, right? You have to have people, and you have to have qualified people to do well. You can have really, really good people, and if your systems are terrible, your people can build good systems. So I'm a firm believer that people is the reason that organizations are successful, even before systems. I would say everything that we've built has been from the mindset that, hey, I sold for over 6 years. I sold roofs. And if I ever had to go back into the industry of selling roofs, which I'm not intending to, but if I ever did, my thought is, hey, if I was a salesperson with the same mindset I have now, and Priority Roofing was still in business and I didn't own it, then what company would I want to work for? And if I can't honestly say Priority Roofing, then I feel like that makes me a scam artist, because I'm offering an opportunity that I wouldn't take myself. So I would say everything's been built around the individual being successful from my own mindset of, hey, what would I want if I was the individual, right? So I would say I believe that's a piece of it. We're not built around profitability. We are built around sustainability, because I believe we have to be sustainable, but we aren't profitability first. We're sustainable because that's what we have to have for the people we have. They have to have a home. That's always here, right? But I would say more than anything, we're built around the people that we have. And I would say from a culture standpoint, that looks like relationships. I think that there is very, very few things you can take with you in life when you die. You can't take your money with you. You can't take your things with you. Really, the only thing you really can take with you is the relationships you have with people, right? And obviously there's different belief systems of what comes after this, right? But if you believe there's something after, then you also believe that, hey, the relationships I form and I build today, I can take those with me, and that's the only thing I can take with me. So I believe there's more of a value in relational equity with people. There's more value in getting to know someone than there is in how much money they can make, or how much money they can make you, or what the actual transactional part of the exchange is, right? And so for us, our culture is the number one thing in our culture is we want to maintain that mom and pop family feel. You go to a small business and you kind of feel that family dynamic. Man, like I know the boss, he's cool, he's down to earth. I know the people, I know the person behind the front desk, and like everyone's real close knit, and it literally feels like a family, right? And then as a company scales, they go more corporate and they get policies and procedures, and all of a sudden it goes from that family feel to now I just feel like a number. And we're very growth oriented, but not at the cost of that mom and pop feel in business. So for me, I would rather grow less and maintain that mom and pop family feel than grow more, but become more of a corporate organization. So that is who we are. That's what we tell our people. And honestly, it's genuine. Like I would rather do, hey, next year, if we do, we'll probably do between 70 and 75 million this year. If next year we do 50 million, but we maintain the family feel, and we could have done 200 million, but it was corporate and everyone became a number and it was all about numbers and profitability, like I'll take the 50. And that's the reality of who we are, right? It's priority family. And that is the number one thing that I would say is part of who we are. There's a few more things in there. Like I could go in depth. I would say that's the biggest piece to who we are is family, relational equity. We're in it together and want to maintain that mom and pop small business feel, no matter how large we grow, because relationships are the most important thing you can have in life.
Totally. And I mean, Priority Roofing is the name of the company. And, I think I would imagine that might have something to do with why the name is, right? Keeping for like things in the right and its proper order so that you're building and it's being, governed and growing the right way. So yeah, super good stuff, man. Really admire what the integrity in which you built about people. And I mean, again, you're making people, and I also think, you compensate well. I'm sure people are doing great, but they feel important to the organization because they are, right? Because that's how you've designed it. So super awesome. Love that. Couple of questions for you. As we kind of get toward the end of this, I know we can talk for a while, but let's talk about this. You mentioned this earlier, like in 2017. Let's talk about the growth of the business and its effect on one's personal life. I'd like for you to kind of be more of like an advice giving mode in that way. Cause we have people listening, right? Growth minded contractors. Many of them are probably married or aspiring to be married, and they want to grow and have a family. We want it all. We want the full thing, the whole thing that life has to offer. I would love to hear just your thoughts on that, because there is just no question that if you're going to grow your business, your family's going to feel the impact of that. It's just, there's no way around it. No one's superhuman and just everything's going to work out like without some sort of consequence. And if you're like, I'm going to grow my business, there's an impact on the family. So let's talk about how it impacted one's family. And then I have a couple more questions after that.
Yeah. So I think that in order to really, really grow a business, there has to be this competitive side to you that is pure drive, hustle, and it's this thing that's almost like, hey, I don't care what it takes. If I have to claw, fight, scratch my way there, like I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to grab this bull by the horns. I'm not letting go. I might get stomped on. I might get stepped on, but I'm going to finish riding it, right? Like that's the mentality that it takes. But that type of mentality, that the issue is that normally what comes with that is that there's never enough, right? Like, hey, if and this even goes back to like playing sports in high school, right? Like, man, if I'm working out and I got to, if I got my 40 time to this, okay, how do I get to the next level? If if I got this many tackles in a game, how do I get this many, right? Like, it's always like, what's next? What's next? How do I increase the bar? How do I raise the bar? How do I get better? How do I grow? And there's something very, very exhilarating, even fulfilling and purposeful about that. But I think the number one thing that we have to be careful with, right? And I'm speaking specifically to those individuals that are wired that way, right? I believe there's this thought process that says, I have to go all in with everything I have. And if I don't, then I'm not going to have the results that I need or that I'm expecting. And at one time I would have said that's true. Here's what I believe. I believe that if I put my family first, and I put my family before work, and I put my family before my own goals and my own ambitions, but I still have those goals and ambitions there. I'm still giving in everything I have, but with the understanding that my family always comes first, and I'm not going to put so much time into the business that my family suffers. With that understanding, I believe that there is more growth that is available. I believe like the ceiling's even higher with that than there is when it's all about what I can do. And that doesn't make a ton of sense, but the reason I believe that is because I don't believe people will follow the person that has the most drive and the most hustle forever. I believe that people will follow the person that they can look at and they can say, wow, you know what? Like, that guy has drive, hustle, and grind, but he also is a family man, and he cares about his kids, and he has a good relationship with his wife, and he's there for his family, and he's there for the people around him. I think that, yes, people tend to follow someone that's grinding and hustling and going, but eventually, like, that lifestyle, it wears you out, right? You do it for 5 years, you do it for 10 years, you're going. And finally, you step back, and it's like, man, what do I really, really have in life? Like, I've seen people, like, I don't have my family anymore. I don't have the people that I really, really held the close. Like, it was just about what I could accomplish. And I think that people will follow that person for 10 years, but they'll follow the person that has relationships and their priorities straight and their family straight for 50 years, right? So I think that even though maybe the growth is a little bit slower if my priorities are right, I think the growth is ultimately exponentially larger. And I believe that if I'm putting my family first, and that's something I didn't do in 2017, it's something I'm committed to now. And I believe if I would have done things different in 2017, I do think this, and I don't, how do you say, I don't think you can ever live life with guilt or, shame, but I do think that there's key people that aren't here anymore that would have been here if I would have made the right decisions in 17 and 18 and as we were growing, with being the family person first and the business person second. I think there's key leaders that aren't here anymore that would have made a difference and would be making a difference today within Priority Roofing if I would have been the individual that could have really led those specific people that had those high capacities, that weren't just looking for a person that could grind and hustle, but they were looking for someone to follow in the full circle and picture of what they really wanted in life. So that's my thoughts.
Dude, that's so well said. I don't think I could have said that better, and I love talking about this stuff. That was awesome. Yeah, you might follow that grinder, hustler, driven person for 10 years, but you'll follow the person who's doing that, but not at the expense of their family for 50 years. That was good. You just made that up. You don't have to admit it, man. You just that was awesome.
I appreciate it.
That was so good. Okay, a couple more things. How often do you read? What do you do for fun? How much do you bench? And I got one last one after that.
Yeah. Man, so I like reading. I don't read as much as I should. I do audiobooks. Man, if I'm being completely honest, I probably do like 2 books a year. And that's just, wow. I know, right? Like a lot of people are like, doing, like, they have a goal, like doing 1 a month. Man,
that's not a lot of books, bro.
It's not, dude. It's not. So in my past, I've done a lot of John Maxwell stuff. Honestly, when it comes to leadership, John Maxwell, my personal opinion, is the absolute best when it comes to the how do you say, like the psychology behind leadership. Read a lot of his books, and a lot of the principles that I live off of even have to do with some of the things I've read about him.
Are you like, because I know you're a ministry guy, so are you like preaching? Do you listen to preaching? Do you listen to worship? Do you do neither? And you're just
Yeah,
like,
so for me, I would say for my own like personal development stuff, and I'm not saying anybody should follow this. This is just me. I try to wake up every morning. I try to spend about 30 minutes to about an hour every morning, and it's a combination of listening to worship, praying, and reading
every
the Bible
morning.
some. Right, and for
You're doing that every
me,
morning, like every morning.
so I try to do it every morning. I would say out of a 5 day week, Monday through Friday, I'm probably doing it about 3 or 4 days a week, and the other 1 or 2, like I'm waking up like, oh shoot, I got a meeting. Like
There
I
you
got,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, correct. So I'd say I'm probably consistent about 3 or 4 days a week, and that's realistic, right? That's me being honest.
I mean, 3 days a week of 30 to 60 minutes of time in that mode. That's a good balanced diet, like
It,
of spiritual. Like that's a lot. That's good. That's healthy. Like that's
honestly, if I take that out of my life, I don't think that I'm anywhere close to the same person, the same mentality. There's a lot of things, a lot of milestone moments I've had from that. But so I would say in that time, like I'm worshiping, right? And that kind of, how do you say, like, it just gets me in a place where I'm like, my motives are right, right? Like I'm not going to work thinking about myself. I'm going to work and my head's in the right space, right?
not in
Um,
fear. Like you're not in fear. You're not in anxiety as much. Like you're. Yeah, that's really good. I'm loving that.
then
Yeah.
I would say the second thing is then during that time I'll spend some time like really meditating and even asking God questions, right? And there's certain things in that time where I'm just really thinking that'll just hit me, and it's like, man, like that's the reality, right? So like there's like, hey, I'll be honest, right? Like one time I was praying, I was like, God, like I want to do ministry, but business is so crazy, and then my wife doesn't want me to work anymore, right? Like she's like, hey, like at the time she was pregnant and she was like a little more emotional, and she was like pulling on me. And one time she was like, I don't want you to do any ministry because then you'll be home even less. And I'm like, God, like, I don't have any support here, but I feel like this tug to like do ministry at some point. And I felt like it just hit me. It was like, boom, hey, Will, like you remember you didn't ask God for an easy life. You asked God for a hard life. And you said, hey, give me the hardest life that's out there because I want to maximize my potential. I don't want an easy life. This is what you asked for. So yeah, like maybe it is hard, but you asked for the maximum potential that you could have, and you didn't ask for easy, you asked for hard. And maybe it's hard, but it's exactly what you asked for. And there's not a lot of people that can do it. Maybe you're right about that, but you can. And I believe that God wouldn't give it to me if I couldn't do it. Right. So like there's moments in that where it's like milestone moments, like, man, like, okay, that's right. Like, you know what? Maybe this is hard, but let's go because I never asked for easy. Right. So for me, it's like, man, like, hey, I do have a wife that wants my time. That's awesome. That's what God gave me. It's because she loves me. Hey, you know what? Like I do feel like I have a call to ministry, and I do business too. That's hard. That's not easy. That takes a lot of time. It's not easy to make that happen. But you know what? Like I didn't ask for easy. I asked for hard, and I wanted to have the maximum. I wanted to maximize my potential in life, and that's part of what that looks like, right? So like there's certain moments in those times where like personal development has been more real to me than reading a book, or more real to me than like going to a business conference or anything like that. And it's in those times like meditating and praying, and that's just me, right? Like I'm not saying
Yeah,
anybody should do that. Reading
I'm
books are great.
super
That's
similar.
me.
I feel like I'm super similar because I feel like I get more timely advice for my life from God in a moment of interaction with Him than I do listening to like a business leader write a book.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really cool. So thanks for sharing all that. So all right, so I saw you last year in person after a bunch of Zoom meetings, and and I was out of shape. Okay, I was not my peak condition, and I was inspired. You were coming in looking bulky, bro, looking good, looking strong. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
show
yeah.
pictures of your like CFNI days, and bro, you were skinny, like not
That's true.
man,
That's
like you were
true.
like a child.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so We gotta know how much you throwing up right now on the bench. Give us something you're proud of to share. I want to hear any meatheads on the line can please share.
No, for sure. So about a year ago, I was like more bulking. So I was about 218 was my weight. I don't bench heavy anymore. I haven't benched heavy for a couple years. The most I'll do is 225 because I've lifted heavy my whole life. And when I go heavier than that, like if I go 275 or 295, I end up really feeling it in my shoulders, and I want to be able to lift for a while. So for me, 225 is the most I'll do. About a year ago, I could do 20 reps of 225 straight. So I don't know if I had to guess, I'd say my max was probably in the mid threes, probably maybe
Yeah.
350, 360. Now I'm about 197, 198. I'm a lot leaner. I can do about 12 reps of 225. So lost a little bit of muscle there. But then my body fat percentage right now is like really, really, really low. I was probably at about 20%. Yeah, about a year ago, just bulky and big. Now I'm probably closer to like 9 or 10, like in terms of like really, really lean. A bucket list thing for me is I'd like to compete in a bodybuilding show. Just one time, amateur, just for fun. Say I did it, show pictures to my kids, and just check it off the bucket list.
Yeah,
That's
good,
a
man.
thought.
Love that. I was just thinking about it this morning as I was working out. Like, you think about it, there's a lot of noise out there, right? So it's like when you're physically sharp and you're mentally sharp and you're emotionally sharp, you're able to cut through the noise, right? And so I think working out is such a vital part of anybody who's growth minded. Like if you're not doing something physical, you're missing out on your opportunity to sharpen yourself. And truly, as we're growing, we have to cut with our sharpness through the attention span of the world around us. And so it's really important. And I think it's fun, it's like, what's the next challenge? And so, yeah, I'm actually down from like 225. And you probably saw me, I was just Zoom meeting, Dow eating, whatever.
Yeah.
And, got down about 210. It feels good. You feel better in your own skin, you're more
You
confident.
do. Also, the difference between now and then is like then I was bulking, and I was like dirty bulking, like fast food and like just working out all the time and trying to get like eating a bunch of food. So now I'm like really, really clean, like a lot of keto. And if I'm not on keto, I'm doing like rice and like sweet potatoes and like a lot more of like a bodybuilder style of food.
Yeah.
But I feel so much better. Yeah, so 100%.
2023.
Hey, if you're moving to Dallas, I can let you know where the competition is, and we can do it together. We get in the board shorts, the men's physique one. Yeah. Ryan and Will.
Some work to do. No, it's the frame could be there. I gotta stay committed. Right now I'm at like 2 out of 3 meals. I'm like no carbs, like meat. And then I'm just like, oh, but I want that. And I just like slide it in. But so look, like, we gotta see. So now we just gotta get competitive. Who's gonna look the best during the conference in October? Okay. October 5th through 8th is our conference. Will's gonna be speaking. So I'm really pumped if you guys are listening to this, you get to meet Will in person. Hopefully he even brings some of his team and you guys can just interact with the guys at Priority. It's going to be October 5th through 8th at the Las Colinas Four Seasons. So the event is called the Transform Conference. I'm sure you can see it in the notes, thetransformconference.com. It's going to be amazing. Last question. What advice would you give a contractor who wants to be successful in the ways that you've been able to be successful?
I think one of the most important things to realize is that John Maxwell, one of his most basic principles is that when it comes to leadership, an individual will only follow a person that they believe has a higher capacity than them. If they believe the person they're following has a lower capacity than them, then they will move on to a different leader, or they'll go do their own thing, and that could look like them becoming an entrepreneur, right? We've had a very, very high retention rate. We've had very, very few people start their own roofing companies out of Priority Roofing that have started with us. And I would say we've had none of our very high capacity people start their own roofing companies. And I think a big piece of that is the goal has always been, how do I give the individuals, or how do we give the individuals that are a part of the team, how do we give them opportunity to do more than what they're doing right now? And that could look like, hey, look, you made over $200,000 last year selling roofs. Like, what do you want for the next challenge? You want to start a location somewhere? Do you want to be a sales manager? Do you want to be a quality control manager? Do you want to be a team leader? Do you want to sell commercial? You want to move into our commercial team? Do you want to sell design or specialty roofing? We have training systems for all that. Like, what do you want, right? And the goal has always been, how do I make sure that the capacity of that person is never capped, right? Like, they're here and they accomplish this, and they said, what's next? And there was always something next for them to punch with. There was always something next to challenge them. And as they kept continuing to grow, they could look ahead and they could see more growth in the future. So I think I would say the biggest thing is you have to have opportunity for the people that you bring into your organization, where your goal can never be, if I could just hire 10 guys that were good at selling and they could sell with me for 10 years, then man, we'd have a successful company and I'd make a lot of money. Because I promise you, if that's the goal, those 10 guys aren't going to stick with you for 10 years. Because if they're good, they might be there for 2, they might be there for 3, and they're going to say, what's the next challenge? Because that's the mentality of a hustler. It's like, boom, hey, I did it, I accomplished it, what's next? And if you don't have the next thing for them, then they're going to find that next thing, but it's going to be somewhere else. So I think the biggest thing is always having an ability to offer another level of capacity for the different people in your organization, especially the highest performers. And rather than thinking of what can they do for me, you have to always be thinking about, what kind of opportunities can I give them? And I never want to lose somebody because I didn't see the potential they had and I didn't give them the opportunity that was going to challenge them.
Love that. Awesome. Will, thanks for taking your time. Super generous. And for those of you listening, I hope you guys are inspired and challenged and connected to what Will's sharing. So yeah, loved having you, Will. Can't wait to hang out in Dallas. Both, when we hang out there as a family, and then, coming to the conference, thetransformconference.com. Go ahead and check it out. Register, bring your A team today. And it's going to be good. So go team. Love having you here. Love what you have to say. Appreciate you very much, man.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it, Ryan.